Alright, everybody. Oh boy. This is gonna be an interesting one. So over the last few days that I took off stream, some discourse blew up on Twitter that I must say my opinion on has gone back and forth in the last couple days. But I'll say the reaction from the incels and the right and the angry men has made me lean in a particular direction, that's for sure. So this discourse is all about whether or not women would feel safer if they were walking through the woods and they encountered a bear. For the sake of argument, we'll say a grizzly bear. You know, it really depends on what type of bear you're running into, right? Like, polar bears will hunt you. Like, they hunt humans for months at a time, if necessary, to find you when you're at your most vulnerable and most consumable. And they will eat you. They will eat you and your bones. So yeah, polar bears, obviously. Let's just say a grizzly bear. Grizzly bears are like the quintessential bear. Like, a grizzly bear could kill you, but it might also just amble on with its day and go eat some berries or some honey or some salmon or something. So we'll say it's a grizzly bear. The argument is that you would, like, women would feel more safe encountering a grizzly bear in the forest than a man, like a random man. And I definitely have mixed opinions here. Like, just to give you guys my take, on one hand, I feel like this is another instance of, like, women on the internet virtue signaling how much they hate men for, like, clout posts, and it ends up making a bunch of men that see it hate women a little more, or feel a little more divided away from women, creates a little more of that division, while for women, it, like, enforces that, yeah, yes, queen, fuck men, kind of wave of feminism that I'm not even a particularly big fan of. Yeah. Like, like on a hiking trail is the parameters. We'll see in a moment here, I guess. Anyway, I definitely have mixed feelings. On one hand, I don't like the whole, like, fuck men, men are awful, they're all dangerous, evil, whatever. Like, I don't like that line of arguments, and it feels very virtue signaling. But then on the other hand, even as a guy in the woods, if I encounter a bear, I'll be a little freaked out for sure. But bears are almost like NPCs, if you think about it. Like, most animals are. They have a predetermined amount of, like, behaviors they're likely to engage in. And most of them are not going to be violent. But if you encounter a human, that's one of the scariest things you can encounter in the woods, is just a guy. You know, especially at night when you're camping or whatever. It could be a hunter, it could be a hiker, it could be a camper. But come on, we all know that in the middle of the woods, one of the most dangerous things you could encounter is man. You know, man is the most dangerous predator. So, out of simple fear, yeah, I think, like, a bear would be kind of a cool encounter in the woods that if you handle correctly, you're probably not going to die. But a encounter with a random strange man could go any direction. So I kind of get it, especially if you're a woman. But on the other hand, this whole discourse feels like a massive virtue signal fest meant to put down dudes, because, let's be real, a lot of, like, Yas Queen Twitter loves saying yes all men just to upset dudes and have them go into the replies and say not all men. You've seen that, right? Like, there are tons of women who just like to see guys get upset and reply not all men. They enjoy sowing that division and getting incels upset and posting about how much they hate women just because that's what they enjoy doing. It feels counterproductive, to be honest, but, you know, what do I know, I guess. Regardless, this account named Homath with 418,000 subscribers on YouTube made a video yesterday that now sits at 116,000 subscribers called Man or Bear? The world is a stupid place full of stupid people. I imagine this is an incel channel based on the fact the channel's called Homath, but who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Maybe we're gonna get, like, a very well-reasoned, politically unbiased breakdown of the statistics of whether or not you're more likely to be in danger encountering a bear or a man in the woods. I'm guessing a bear would be more dangerous statistically, but, I mean, even as a dude, I'm going to be more worried about encountering a bad person in the woods than I am about a bear being bad in the woods. Because, I mean, you go to the woods, you're kind of trying to see wildlife, bears included. Like, I'm there to see bears. So, you know, maybe that's just me, though. Anyway, let's watch the video.
Stuck in a forest with a man or bear?
Man or bear is this week's idiotic waste of time, and the answers that people are giving are very predictable because they're stupid.
Bear. Man is scary. With a bear.
Well, I've heard about bears. They don't always attack you, right? So maybe a bear.
Probably a bear.
Oh, 100% a bear, which is like terrifying to say, but...
Definitely a bear. Some men are very scary out there.
A bear.
Even some men are saying bear, although we could predict that this man's opinion will be whatever makes women approve of him.
If I were alone.
There are definitely dudes out there. I forget what the term is for it. Fuck. There's a phrase for the dudes who do the, like, they play at being a feminist to try to get pussy. This used to be a very common, like, every man who believes in any, like, progressive ideology is just doing it to get laid. That idea has been popularly recited by conservatives for a long time, but I forget what the phrase is. It's not femme chaser. I think the term is literally just male feminist or white knight or something. There are definitely people like that, but I like how this dude's like, this guy wears nail polish, so must only do anything for the approval of women. Do women like guys with nail polish typically? Is that a thing usually? I don't know. I get no pussy out of my own active choice not to, because I like YouTube. I'm married to YouTube. You guys are my girlfriend. So does that mean that I break the rule of lefty guys only doing it to get pussy? They're only progressive for pussy, I suppose. I think we can already tell what this guy's politics are right off the bat.
In the woods, would you rather me encounter a bear or a man?
I feel more like bear. I don't know, because I feel like I know what the outcome would be with a bear.
Of course, clearly a great source of bear advice.
Okay. All right, I'm going to be very clear here. I grew up in Florida, all right? And the bears we have in Florida are black bears. They're Florida black bears. They get maybe, I think probably 400 pounds at the biggest. Like maybe the world record-breaking Florida black bear might have hit 500 pounds. But we're not talking grizzly bears here. We're talking bears that if you saw them on the side of the road at night, their outline would make you think you saw like a bigger dog. And they're very easy to spook, and they're very easy to scare off, you know? I gotta, like, wipe the dust off my microphone one of these days. It's so dusty. You guys are right about me needing a lint roller. I just, like, watched as a little piece of lint, like, floated off the mic and just swirled around in the air with, like, a little dust, not dust tornado, a little wind tornado from my talking. But yeah, I feel like in Florida, the average black bear, they're just gonna run the fuck away from you. They're gonna get spooked by you and run. They're small and they're spookable. But if we're talking a grizzly bear, that's a little bit more of a scary situation. If the grizzly bear is protecting its young, it might disembowel you and rip your head off and all your arms and legs for extra measure because it sees you as a threat to its young. But there's also plenty of videos where, like, grizzly bears are just chill. Polar bears are under no circumstances chill, though. They actively hunt and kill and eat humans. They will, like, they are above us on the food chain when we don't have guns and weapons. They're above us. And they'll eat us. If we live in the same environment as them, they will consume us. Let me just see this. Grizzly bear sits next to man. Not Joe Rogan. Come on. How is Joe Rogan the second autofill? God damn. Yeah, this is a grizzly bear here. The kind that could absolutely fuck a grown man. Like, this grizzly bear could disembowel the strongest man in the world in like, less than 30 seconds. So, I mean, most bear encounters go more like this than they go like The Revenant, you know? He's asking how the fishing is today. How fucking scared is this guy right now who's recording, do you think? Just like, does it know I'm here? If it doesn't know I'm here, I could be fucked if it just notices me. It definitely notices him. It just doesn't give a fuck he's there. Dude, if I was in this guy's position, I would try to blow some weed in its face and see if I can get the bear high. I'm not gonna lie. Cocaine bear? Sure. Deadly, horrible, scary. Weed bear, though. If you give a bear weed, it might become your best friend. Like, very chill. Like, might let you ride it around a little bit. Like, imagine getting to ride around on a grizzly bear. I would give a bear so many marijuana gummies if I could. I would 100% be dead from a heart attack by now. My goal is to, like, drop a giant mush together, like, 10,000 milligram, like, gummy edible together and feed it to a bear and see if I can befriend it afterwards. Like, bears are sometimes friendly like this when they're sober. Imagine when they're high as fuck and couch locked on some strong indica. The bear just got up and started walking by, and whether or not the bear either got spooked by the guy saying, hey, 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 and then walked off, which is, you know, kind of gives you a good idea of a bear's mentality, that simply turning and saying, hey, 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 is enough to scare them, or it just didn't have any intention of hurting the guy and just bolted off for no reason. Another good example of what, like, this is what the bears are like where I grew up. Black bear porch video. I love this video. These are the type of bears we get in Florida. Neither of them notice each other. The fucking it does the bear noise, the like stock bear noise as it runs away. Did you guys hear that? Listen to the stock like bear sound, like Red Dead Redemption 2 bearsound.exe that play, or bearsound.mp3 that plays whenever it runs off. Listen for it. Did you hear that shit? Bearnoise.mp3. Literally. Anyway. Yeah, bears are animals, and animals are unpredictable, so there is definitely fear there. But, like, come on. Everyone knows the scariest thing to encounter in the woods, more so than an animal that wants to kill you, is a human that wants to kill you, right? Like, obviously there's a higher chance the animal wants to kill you than a human does when you encounter them. But if you end up in the situation where the bear wants to kill you, that's far more handleable, usually, than a human trying to get you. If a human's chasing you down the woods, you're pretty fucked.
So here's the thing. I have met bears in the woods. I am bear aware. That's what they say in bear country. Bears are a big deal in bear country, and they want you to keep...
Yeah, bear basically make noise. Make noise while walking through the woods. Make lots of noise. Every predator in the woods knows what humans sound like. They associate us with being loud, noisy, and annoying and scary with our noise. So if you're trying to 100% avoid sneaking up on a predator, which is what'll happen. Like, predators typically attack humans when cornered. They recognize where we are in the food chain. They know that we're those loud, noisy creatures that dominate the planet. And as long as you make that noise as you're approaching, bears, big cats, boars, all those things typically clear out. These are usually animals that only freak out and try to gore you or fuck you up when you've snuck up on them. On the other hand, when it comes to big cats, you'll never sneak up on them, really. They sneak up on you, not the other way around. You can't sneak up on big cats. I had a big cat sneak up on me in Florida. I think I might have seen, like, one of the last, like, 400 or whatever, 4,000, like, Florida panthers in Florida in a public park not public park. It's like a wildlife preserve while camping on my 21st birthday. I was going to piss, like my last pee before we left the campground to go home. And I walked off into the woods to go pee. And I turn around, and there's a brown and gray big, I thought at first a dog. Like, I thought there was a dog, like a Great Dane looking at me, like a small Great Dane. And I realized, like, that's a cat. That's a big... And I screamed, oh! That's the most I can imitate the noise. It was like the same noise Gus made before he got, you know. It was the same scream Gus made in Breaking Bad. Like that, oh! Like I made that noise, and the fastest I've ever seen anything go. The only time I've seen an animal move as fast as that thing did to run away from my, oh! Was when my cat, Luna, would just bolt around the house with her zoomies. The only time I've seen anything else go that fast in real life. Like, it's wild when you hear about how fast animals can go, and it's really scary when you witness it. Like, you know, like, okay, big cats can move at, like, 80 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, some shit like that. That's pretty fast. But then you see it happen. You see an animal go from, like, staring you dead in the eye, just, like, dead still, to instantly 0 to, like, 40 miles an hour straight into the woods. Like, before you can blink or react, and you're like, what? Like, it's scary, dude. It's scary. Animals can be spooky in the woods, so you make a lot of noise, and you're more safe. Be bear aware.
Them to a bare minimum. Bear spray costs $50. I've also met men in the woods, and I gotta tell you, not as stressful. And I know what you're thinking. I'm not a woman.
I mean, here's the thing. The woods become substantially less scary when you have a gun. Like, going to the woods, spooky. Going to the woods with a gun, like, happy Mr. Incredible image.
Men are not women. Please tell me you were thinking that. And so, therefore, a man would not be a danger to me. Well, let's take a look at some statistics.
Yeah, so I assume he's going to bring up the fact that, out of, like, when it comes to violent crime done by strangers onto another stranger, men are, like, way more likely to be victims of violent crime from a stranger than women. However, women are far more likely to be victims of violent crime from men that are already in their life. So it could be their current boyfriend who, when they break up with them, it maybe goes badly. It could be a guy friend that they have that they don't know is some fucking creepo, a family member, a neighbor, an employee, or a peer, a classmate. It's somebody they already know the vast majority of the time. But for men, if you're a man, you're far more likely to be the one who gets victimized by some stranger out of nowhere on the street, right? And there are a variety of reasons for this, I'm sure. I'm sure this guy's going to suggest he knows what they are. So let's see.
Who gets murdered by strangers more? Oh, here's the source.
It's not even just murder. It's all forms of violent crime. If you're a man, you're far more likely to be a victim of any form of violent crime from a stranger than if you're a woman, and substantially so. He's right on this. And it's not even just murder. It's like robbery, assault, like anything like that. Pickpocketing, I think, too. Yeah. Hate crimes as well, I believe.
A larger percentage of males, 21%, were murdered by a stranger than females, 12%. So in this scenario, as a man, I would be in roughly 21/12 as much danger, which is almost double. And yet, even though I have more to fear...
Wait, have I covered this channel before? Wait, is this the INCEL Math channel? Did he rebrand? Dude, I think this is that one INCEL Math channel I covered years ago that is rebranded. Dude, have I rediscovered this hidden gem that rebranded to hide from me? You can't hide this gold from me. This is INCEL Math. Dude, it's INCEL Khan Academy. I think that was what I called them, INCEL Khan Academy. Dude, it's all coming back to me now.
When I encounter a man in the woods, I experience no adrenaline response. I fear not for my very life. I reach not for my man spray. No, I carry only bear spray, upon which I place 5 fingers during each encounter of bear.
The man spray is just a Glock 19 with one of those extendo mags that's like a drum with 60 rounds available and a Glock switch in it. That's the man spray.
awareness. A lot of people have been providing fuzzy math about bear versus man. Again, note the level of masculinity.
To be clear, the answer is unequivocally a bear. In the United States, there are 340,000 bears and about 57 million hikers, 26 million of which are female. Since 2020, there have been exactly 7 women killed by bears.
All right.
There are also 165 million men and 168 million women. Since 2020, there have been 8,000 fatal attacks on women by men.
All right, I see where you're going.
In order to adjust for population, the number of bears in the United States would have to increase by a multiplier of 485 in order to equate to the same population of men. So in this hypothetical, 3,395 deaths.
Okay, it's a lot more than 7.
You're still greater than 2 times more likely to be killed by a man than a bear if you're a woman in the United States.
Wait a minute, I thought you said there were only 26 million hikers.
This is you also have to control for the fact that how many women are coming into contact with bears as opposed to women, right? Or to men. The average woman probably comes into contact with dozens and dozens and dozens of men and doesn't get murdered or attacked. For days upon days upon days at a time. Sometimes years at a time. Decades at a time even, in some cases. Believe it or not. Most women are alive. So, actually no, most women that have existed are dead, to be fair, but not... They have to be, due to the limits of the human lifespan, but you know what I mean. Most women who are alive today are alive. So, there are a lot of different variables that make this, like, pointless math to do. There's never been any point in engaging with this thought experiment on a mathematic level. It's always been about, where do you feel more safe? Like, think about false allegations. I'm sure this INCEL channel guy probably imagines that false allegations of sexual impropriety against men are a big problem. And yet they're extremely rare. Exponentially more rare than true allegations. So why is that a genuine fear that I'm sure this guy and many of his fans have when it is statistically such an unreasonable and unlikely fear to come true? Because conversations about things like that are not about statistics and logical mathematic intuition. They're about what makes you feel more safe. So, for example, I feel more safe riding in a car than I do on a plane because I'm afraid of heights. Heights and cockroaches, my two only fears, my only phobias. And they're serious phobias, by the way. Like, I cannot stand heights, especially. And yet, statistically, I'm far safer in a plane, even with all the Boeing shit happening right now, than I am in a car. I know the math. I know I'm not safer in a car, statistically, even as a passenger, and yet I'm still more afraid on a plane. The same logic applies to this conversation. It's the same level of seriousness that it was meant to be treated with as, do you feel safer riding on a plane or as a passenger in a car? It's very straightforward. The fact that so many dudes got, like, so ass mad about it, though, like, I get it. I see those posts where it's just women, like, broadly shit-talking men, and I feel it, too, a little bit, like, the kind of, what a bitch, you know? Like, I feel it. But you gotta remember, like, Twitter and social media are all about virtue signaling to farm likes. Like, 90% of the time. The right does it, and so do people on the left. Don't take it too seriously. Don't let the lowest common denominator of posters taking advantage of the algorithms convince you what the vast majority of people are like or what they believe. Most women do not think that, like, men are actually more dangerous than bears. They just thought about it for a second and thought, I imagine a bear is probably going to run away from me, but a guy could end up being dangerous when I'm alone in the woods with him.
Don't you have to be where bears are to be in a bear attack? Are you suggesting that if there were more bears that they would all be taking Ubers? I did the math for you. This divided by this starts with 3 zeros, and this divided by this starts with 4. The reason this is all so stupid is that the only way to figure out who's more dangerous is total attacks divided by total encounters. And how are you going to count the number of encounters you have with strange men every day? Isn't it thousands a day if you live in a city? When was the last time you bumped into 1,000 bears? They thrive in...
Well, the fact is, the reason why men as well, like, what he's also forgetting is the reason why most of us men will say we'd rather encounter a bear is because all of us American men believe we can beat a bear in a fight. Not all of us will admit it, but we all do think that, like, at least given 100 attempts to respawn, one of those 100 attempts we could win in hand-to-hand combat with a grizzly bear. Like, every American man thinks that 100 respawn attempts they could get the bear at least one of those 100 times. I'd certainly do. I think I know a plan that could work. I'm sure it wouldn't, but every guy believes this, and that's probably, you know, that'll motivate a fair amount of dudes' answers here, I think.
In Grand Teton National Park, and I saw 0. So I'd rather run into a bear is clearly dishonest. They're arguing in bad faith. Why?
Well, I want to see bears, though. Have we also forgotten the fact that some people, like, when I go to the woods, I'm not there to see people. I hate when I see people in the woods. Like, I'm a very social person. I go outside or I go to a store, and I love starting conversation or just saying hi to people while walking down the street, saying, like, good morning or howdy or whatever, or good afternoon or good morning, good evening. I like starting conversations and talking to people at, like, dispensaries and stores and stuff. Like, I'm pretty good at just having conversation with strangers. And yet when I go out into nature, like on a hike or something, I hate when I encounter people. For one, you hear them from like half a mile off. So like, you know, they're coming, you hear voices, and it's like, all right, well, all the animals around here are scared, and we've been walking quietly so we don't like scare off all the wildlife. So now like we know that because they're coming our way, that all the animals are going to be scared off, and for like the next mile, there's not going to be any wildlife until we've gotten to where they haven't been for a while, or we split off their trail. I just don't like encountering people out in the woods because it kind of ruins the experience of being out alone in the woods or just out with my friends or group in the woods. And also, I'm out in the woods to see wildlife such as bears. I obviously would rather see the bear like across a wide river or something, but like I've hopped out of the back seat of the car, opening the back door as my mom screamed, stop it," with my full first, middle, and last name bellowed out with like her whole stomach as I jump out of the car to run across a street in a national park to get closer to a young black bear in a ditch alongside the road in the national park. It promptly ran away, but the second I saw it that close to the car, the fact that it was like 10 feet away from my door, I opened the door, forced them to stop, got out, and I chased the fucking bear. I didn't mean to chase it. I was hoping to get close to it, and hopefully it would just chill, but yeah. How in God's name are you still alive? This black bear was the size of, like... What's a good thing to approximate its size to? I guess a dog breed? Like a full-grown bloodhound? Not bloodhound, those are a little too squat. Like a full-grown hound, like beagle? Like, it was young. It was a young black bear, but not so young that its mom was around. But yeah, probably not the smartest thing to do, but I'm a Florida man, and that's what we Florida men do. Ask my mom how many snakes I picked up and how many times she had to tell me, Alex, do not pick up any snakes at school today. If I get another call from a teacher that you had lizards in your pocket or snakes in your pocket and you brought them into the classroom, like that conversation has happened more than once, okay? Where I brought snakes into the classroom from outside. I was good at finding snakes. I knew which ones weren't venomous, though, and it was only ever the non-venomous ones, black racers and garden snakes. Like those little green guys. I forget what they're called, the little green guys.
Why would they do that? Let's revisit Who is a 10. If you haven't seen the video, it's on YouTube when you're done here. It explains basically that men compete for status and power out in the open, while women disguise their power games as equality and fairness while making power moves in secret, and one of those power moves is the accusation. So just like a lot of women are saying, I'm a 10, you're a 10, we're all 10s, everyone is beautiful, even though they don't believe it.
Do you think Lizzo is beautiful?
I mean, yeah. Lizzo is hot. Yeah. 100%.
Molly, has anyone ever told you that you look like Lizzo?
Women also like to say that men...
I feel like this is a really bizarre... There's this really bizarre community of, like, incel content that's all about calling out hypocrisy in, like, popular women's, like, behavior discussion. So, like, if you guys are on social media, you'll notice that, like, a lot of women refer to each other as queens. They always, like... not always, but they'll oftentimes gas each other up on social media. And it's something nice that you do for your friends. It's something nice that you do, like, just conceptually, because most people aren't assholes, or at least most women aren't assholes. Usually not to other women, just by default. And so, like, it's sort of culturally a thing nowadays to sort of, like, give some sort of, like, support to other women. A big part of this also has to do with, like, weight stuff, if you guys don't remember, back in like really recently, like as recently as like 2008, there are movies and shows that depict like women who are like 5'8" and 160 pounds as being fat. Like hilariously worthy of being made fun of fat, like the fat character fat, the fat girl character fat, like having any amount of squish, any amount, and I mean any amount, in like 2008 Hollywood was too fat. We are literally not even 2 decades out of a level of body toxicity within the mainstream that was downright abusive. The standards around that time for women's weight, especially in America, were fucking horrendous. Like, it was bad. It still is, but it was fucking bad. And I'm really glad to say that somewhere around the early 2010s, there was this big cultural push for thick women. Like, obviously, thick women, hot, yeah, awooga, thick women, awooga. Obligatory, out of the way, yeah. But also there's, like, unironically, that was not a thing anywhere near to the degree it was today, like back in 2008. Like, for example, like, I don't think Kim Kardashian would be famous for, and in a good way, for having like a fat ass like back in 2008 or 2006 in mainstream Hollywood. Like, curviness was not appreciated in mainstream Hollywood at all. And so we saw this big switch up in like the early 2010s, and that followed with like the general culture. And now most women don't feel anywhere near, even at a younger age, anywhere near as shamed for simply having like a few extra pounds than what was seen as the ideal back in 2008 these days. Like, it's considered normal to have some level of squishiness, which is frankly, at least my preference, so I'm fine with that, with women. But like, it's obviously also more freeing. This guy's against that, of course. But yeah, he likes to point this out as some form of like woman hypocrisy, I guess. It's this really weird like incel argument about how like women are monolithically part of some like conspiracy to like gas each other up but put down men.
Men are dangerous because that turns you into a threat that needs to be managed. Worse than a bear with Uber. So if it can be agreed upon that you are more dangerous than a bear, then that...
How do you, like, how long do you have to go without seeing a vagina in real life to start making graphs and charts like this? Like, is this what no pussy does to a motherfucker? Like, dude even used the like colored pencil circles method to create a gradient line, like a gradient effect that like gets darker as you go out towards the borders inside these little boxes for like a bit of a nice center gradient effect. Like, you guys know how when you could use colored pencils to make little circles and it makes really clean colored pencil coloring effects, and you can like lighten your pressure or like increase your pressure to make darker or lighter little circles, and it's like a very nice even coloring in with a colored pencil. If you didn't know that, that's how you're supposed to do it. That is the best way to use colored pencils to color things in. You're welcome. But yeah, this dude went crazy. This guy's got like full balls and has for a while, I would guess.
That justifies...
Do you think this guy's into semen retention? He's gotta be, right? Chat, correct me if I'm wrong. My friend Ethan swears this is the case. Semen retention involves eating your cum, right? Like, to be into semen retention, it's not just about not nutting. It's about if you do nut, like that one guy who said he had like a wet dream, you have to eat it. You have to retain it, right? Because your power is stored in the nut, just like that one, the villain from Dr. Strangelove. The women are after your, like, precious, vital male fluids.
Excluding you from the power hierarchy. Fluids. And then you become this little fellow who's not having a good time.
I'm not joking, by the way. There's a Stanley Kubrick movie from, like, 50 or 60 years ago where the, like, main villain of the movie, I shit you not, is a semen retentionist who believes that women are trying to sap men of their vital, like, fluids through their cum. He's literally an incel semen retention guy. Like, if you haven't seen the movie, in a long time. Rewatch it, you will laugh uproariously when he gives his like explanation for his motivations to start a nuclear war. Goes crazy.
Time. And even though it's not a realistic threat evaluation, remember, this is the chance of it happening per year, and it's even lower when considering if it's a stranger, like a man in the woods. The collective negotiation.
Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. The movie has 2 names, but most people just call it Dr. Strangelove. So yeah, a good movie. It's a good movie. Lonnie actually showed me that movie. Rare W.
Appears to be working. More and more men are reporting feeling excluded from the job market and the dating market and pretty much everything. I know so many men who are significantly above average, and they go out in the world to do something and they get told, yeah, no, we're saving that for someone else. This was going to be me.
Oh,
if I didn't blow up on TikTok, this was about to be me. There's a smaller one on the back. He doesn't have a...
Is he saying he was going to kill himself?
Mouth. That's kind of more accurate. So the math doesn't make that much sense, but we don't really need it anyway, because nobody actually believes that anybody would be more frightened to meet a man in the woods than a bear. And if you do believe that, try it and bring $50. Once you understand the pattern, it becomes a little more clear. When large numbers of women are saying things they clearly don't believe, like men are more dangerous than bears, or Lizzo is a 10.
Wait, when a large amount of women are saying things they don't believe. This is a very weird way to word this. I think you're a 10 when referring to other women is just being polite. While saying that they think men are more dangerous, I don't believe that's women lying. I don't think those women secretly know the statistics and know the math, and they're just lying for some agenda. I think that more likely than not, their opinion about like what makes them feel less safe or more safe is just misled or non-aligning with the statistics. Doesn't mean they're lying. It just means they're, you could argue, wrong. If they think that their opinion is based on the math, at least.
Has anyone ever told you that you look like Lizzo?
It's just a performance. It means I'm nice and I'm sweet and I'm not competing for unearned advantages. And whenever a group of people votes itself unearned advantages at the expense of another group of people, those people...
What is this image? Oh my god. Okay, so women give nothing, get a lot apparently. Delululemon. Okay, so apparently women are buying lots of Starbucks and clothes with money from the government, which is coming from men's tax dollars because men make all the money. Meanwhile, the incels and the conservatives are arguing women should be discouraged from working, and the problem is that women are pursuing more work in STEM and other high-paying job positions, and thus losing their reliance on men economically, and thus pursuing less relationships at a less at a younger age, and that's a problem for men. So simultaneously, women are moving into the workforce too much, thus giving them economic independence that is bad, as they argue, but they are also only taking money from the government. In some imaginary, they're getting money somehow, I guess. I guess they'd say like child support's not even government funding. No, that's literally the government demanding someone else pays you. What are women receiving? Like, wait, what tax money does he think women are receiving? Welfare? I guess moms maybe make up the majority of welfare recipients or something? I guess. But then how does that jive with like women getting into STEM and becoming more economically independent and thus paying more into taxes? Doesn't that mean that women are now making up for the amount of money that men are paying in a tax burden for women? This is so bizarre. Maybe in the EU, but not in the US. Yeah, this is America. Where is the government just giving people free money outside of... Were the stimulus checks we got in during COVID only for women? As I recall, I got those stimulus checks. Were those only meant to go to women? Did I just get one by mistake? Or get two by mistake? I think there were two, right?
A group of people, those people eventually stop doing productive things, and then society collapses. This is what every city looks like right now. This doesn't have to be this...
Really? Really, this is what every city looks like right now. And I think he literally used Seattle as an
doing
example,
productive
where
things,
I am now.
and then society
Yeah, it's literally Seattle, I think. I'm pretty certain that's supposed to be Seattle, and now
collapses. This is what every city looks like right now.
it's a really interesting... So for those of you guys that don't know, conservatives heavily play to an audience of people that are not very worldly. You would be surprised, but in America, there are an insane amount of people who have not been within outside of 2 hours of where they were born and grew up. Like, they were born into a small town, maybe 4 or 5 hours away from a big city. They've never seen a building more than 5 stories high in their lives, never seen a skyscraper or a city themselves, and their entire view of what real-life American cities are like is filtered entirely through memes, YouTube videos like this, right-wing news coverage, and what they see on Twitter clips on the internet. And these are people who are very easy to just warp the perspectives of. It's like how Americans, you can just tell them anything about what Europe is like, and if they haven't been there, they'll believe it, and it'll warp their perception of what Europe looks like if they ever actually go there. And so because there's so many Americans out there in that flyover country that have never actually seen a real city before, they'll see a video like this, and they'll think, oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, every city is just burning down to the ground. Meanwhile, like, I go outside and, like, most of Seattle, like, on almost every corner in Seattle, there is a community garden. Most of Seattle is, like, nice, hilly, quiet, 2-lane road neighborhoods. A lot of it is on the water, like expensive, nice waterfront property that, like, extends for, like, miles inland from Lake Washington, the Puget Sound, and the Pacific Ocean, because almost everything in Seattle is waterfront. You have to understand that there is, like, a very narrow strip that goes from, like, I think it's northern Beacon Hill in Seattle down to Renton that is considered, like, the bad area of Seattle. And when you see, like, conservatives making videos where they talk about, like, the tent cities and, like, people high on fentanyl doing the fentanyl slump and, like, the fucking needles everywhere and stuff, that's that strip. It's, like, a very narrow strip in a city that is, like, 10,000 times larger than that strip. Okay? Like, probably way more, like 100,000 times larger than that strip. It is a very select area of land along the highways that goes up from Renton into, like, southern Seattle that has this problem. And, like, outside of that, it's like Skid Row in LA, exactly. Like, people go to Skid Row in LA, that one long street where it's tent cities and homeless people, and they say, this is all of LA. And, of course, people's natural inclination to just look at homeless people, the less fortunate, with disgust. All the much easier whenever they're, you know, high on drugs, when you get photos or video of them. It's easy to look at them with contempt and disgust and see them as what's responsible for ruining our cities and ruining our city streets. And they prey on that emotional reaction. And that's what this guy's doing here.
This doesn't have to be this complicated. It doesn't need to be a 7-minute video. All you need to know is lying is bad. When people start to say things like Lizzo is hot and I feel safe around bears, just go, well, what's your ulterior motive? Nobody knows how dangerous men are compared to bears, but I do know that I would rather see another bear in the woods than another woman in human resources.
Get it? Because HR, they're the ones who deal with, like, sexual harassment complaints. And HR is bad because men should be allowed to sexually harass women. And HR is bad because they don't allow that. And women in HR is bad because they think everything is sexual harassment, I guess. Way to drop the mask at the end as if it was ever there. God. INCEL Khan Academy, everyone. They really did get mad about this whole man or bear thing. Like, way more mad than I think even close to reasonable. But I guess that was the goal of the people posting that stuff. They wanted to get men pissed off, and they sure did. Anyway, though, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you did. Consider leaving a like. It really helps the channel out a lot. As you guys know, I am grassroots funded here, so you guys donating, liking, and subbing really is the main way of supporting me and pushing me in the algorithm to more people. So every like means a lot. Every sub and rung a bell icon to turn on notifications means a lot, as does every single comment. Comments help a lot. And of course, if you want to support me directly, you can always donate, subscribe, or gift a sub yourselves on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying merch through my Streamlabs link down below. Everything linked down below, by the way. And of course, if you want to join my fan Discord, it's actually the hub of my fan base. It's totally free, and we do watch parties, call-in streams, game events, and I also announce all my uploads and videos there, so you'll never miss anything. Highly recommend joining there. I do hope to see you there, and I hope you enjoyed this video.